I'm not about to sit up there and pretend some rich-ass black man is some revolutionary leader.
Just happening to say some of y'all don't organize, and it shows. Fix that. So some of y'all are clearly missing it. You're missing the point. It's going over your head. The point's past you. One of the left's biggest problems is our disconnection from culture. Maybe I have to explain this again in a different way. Walk with me. Right now, the current cultural climate is giving right-wing fascism, authoritarian chic. You feel me? And the people who are actually shaping the meaning of this society are manufacturing a pendulum swing right now. Keep following me. Keep following me. Now, I evidence this in the fact that the Grammys was extra black this year, okay? And a lot of black people felt very seen, heard, and vindicated. You feel me? Now, I don't have to make shit up for attention because guess what? I don't monetize these pages. I assumed the Eagles would win, a majority black team from majority black city. And I evidenced that in the fact that the Met Gala theme that was announced for this year was tailoring black fashion. Keep walking with me. Now, it is our job as leftists to engage with the culture and translate it with our own ideological narrative. Because do you really think that Jesse Waters, Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, Matt Walsh, and all of them actually give a fuck about Cardi and Meghan? No. But they understand that engaging in the culture and then translating it through their own ideological lens builds their movements. Because culture influences politics. Now, Kendrick is not a revolutionary, but if you claim to be, then you need to understand that the movement needs people. Because, my friends, if there were enough of us, we would be free already. The revolution would be here, but there are not. So until then, we have to meet people where they are, which means we have to stop sucking the fucking joy out of everything. Because nobody in their right fucking mind wants to be a part of some miserable ass shit. We must be joyful during the revolution. People must find joy in dismantling the empire because they know and they trust that their lives will be better on the other side of that they can build a better world. People must find joy in intentional reconnection and re-indigenation of our culture because they must trust that there is comfort in community. And the pendulum swing, creating that counterculture, is coming. So we must interrupt the dominant narrative that is going to just funnel more progressivism back into this capitalist system. We must be prepared to meaningfully engage with music, film, and sports and translate it through our ideological lens and articulate our own propaganda. I guess what I'm saying is do your fucking job, okay? We have to organize people around shared values, collective imagination, and unity of thought, okay? And most definitely and especially, if you getting paid to be on these apps, you need to be the propaganda machine that you would like to see. If you made it this far into the video, comment something green into the chat. I love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Oh, wait. By the way, the revolution will absolutely be fucking televised, okay? Because the whole world is watching. The only ones that are going to miss on TV is us, okay? But everybody else, they're watching, baby. It's going to be...
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 3 of the A&M podcast on the ACP network. I'm Andre Morton, and that's Mike, aka Left Indy, and the A&M podcast is exclusively on the ATP network. You can catch us on there. We everywhere: YouTube, Twitch, Rumble, and Twitter, and also on the bottom. That's our crew right there. Be sure to follow them. Left Indies handle right there. Liz's and mine. So follow us, and we always say something interesting. So how you doing, Left Indy?
I'm doing great, and no lies detected in that righteous rant because damn, that woman is on fire.
Yeah, facts and fire, man.
I don't know if I would take joy in the revolution because it's going to be bloody. But
yeah.
And I've seen things that I can't unsee coming out of Palestine and Iraq and other places. So joy might not be the correct word, but you definitely have to bring some passion to it. And I'm bringing my Rubik's Cube. to the revolution. If I get bored,
Yeah, man. Wow, wow, man. That's the people that
I
color
will give it to
solid.
the cops all
They're
messed up
intelligent.
and dare them. Look, if you fix this, I'll go quietly. If you can't, there will be blood.
Well, I guess it'll be blood then. Cops are, that's why I call cops pigs because they're dumb as fuck.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of blood, apparently the NAFO trolls are on their bullshit today because of Trump supposedly being on the phone with Vladimir Putin. Some ass clown was like, the blood of Ukrainians is on the heads of all who voted for Trump or third party or didn't vote at all. And I'm like, dude, what the fucking fuck?
The fucking fuck, yes.
It's like nobody
I
cares
don't
what
know.
Nazis think. All right, I mean, geez.
Oh man, yeah. Like I have to tune out the Zionists, the NAFO trolls, man, because like I swear, like them motherfuckers gonna give me a fucking a stroke, man, like a
Oh,
heart attack or
I
something.
usually either
Holy
block
hell.
them or mute them on site because they're just
Yeah.
so pathetic. It's like
Yeah.
we've got like redhead Ophelia with a Nazi flag emoji right next to a rainbow flag emoji,
Oh
and then
God.
it says, "As a Ukrainian, I just want to say, fuck all of you who voted for Trump, chose to vote for a third candidate, or stayed at home. Ukrainian blood is on your hands. Not that you care, but still." And this is in response to one of Trump's daily posts where he goes on some nonsensical
Yeah, bullshit.
monologue
Yeah.
about some phone call that he had with Putin, and it's a little fuzzy as to whether or not this phone call actually happened because Trump does like to lie. But
Yeah.
uh, Mark Sloboda was on with Jamarl Thomas yesterday, uh, talking about the alleged phone call, and Alexander Mikura over from the Duran on his personal channel was talking about it. But the general consensus between Sloboda and Thomas was that the phone call, whether or not it happened, was probably meant to be on the down low, and Trump, because he has to take over the whole thing and take credit for shit that he didn't actually do, he just kind of started announcing it. But at this point, Trump really isn't in any position to dictate terms. Russia's going to
Yeah.
dictate the terms of Ukraine's surrender. It's not going to
Yeah.
be the United States. Trump, in my observation, is doing what every other American imperialist executive has tried to do, which is to try to find some resolution to this that makes America look good on the world stage, so that it can save face. But it's not going to happen. I think Moscow, regardless of what Putin himself may or may not decide he wants to do, is set on a course we're continuing on until Ukraine surrenders unconditionally. And that could take another 5 months, 6 months, however long it takes for the final collapse to happen. But it's not going to happen on any terms that Trump will like. And I
Yeah.
think what's going to happen is Putin is going to set the terms, as are the rest of Moscow's political leaders, and it's going to be on the terms that Russia sets. Ukraine, if there's a Ukraine still left after all this, there might not be nearly as much as might have looked even a year ago. But it's going to keep the Donbass regions. It's going to keep Crimea. It may take Odessa. So it'll be a landlocked rump state. And if it remains any kind of state at all, it'll be a buffer between Russia and the rest of Europe. And if Finland
Yeah.
tries anything, yeah, bye-bye Finland,
I'm pretty sure feeling
which is
after the
awful
shit
because
say even
apparently I
England.
have some Finnish ancestry in my maternal
Yeah.
grandfather's line, and yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's really going into a really interesting development here because Trump is in a position where he knows he has to extract the United States from Ukraine so that he can focus his energy on trying to take down China. But at the same time, he's trying to have it both ways, just like Biden was trying to have it both ways, where he claims some kind of victory. He can't do it as an imperialist, because people think, people on the fake left, like Doorknob and Green-pilled and Hacks and Stinkle and those people. They were trying to sell Trump during the election as being more anti-war than the Democrats.
Anti-war, yeah.
That was never the case.
Yeah,
Trump believes in a manifest destiny and Pax Americana, just like every other right-wing extremist here in the United States. And the idea that he was ever going to try and put an end to the Ukraine war within 24 hours or even 24 days of taking office was a fantasy.
It's a joke. Yeah. Yeah. This is the same guy that said he was going to lower grocery prices as soon as he got into office.
Right. Well, he can't
Now,
because
today,
bird flu is running rampant through our livestock.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's not doing anything about it to stop it either. That's that. So.
Yeah, I know. And then there was some kind of a fake communist chat that I got invited to on Twitter that is loaded with libertarians and COVID deniers and like,
oh Lord,
oh my God! So I don't know if these guys are feds. I mean, they talk like feds, but oh my God, dude, no solidarity, no solidarity at all with people who are concerned about COVID. We're going into the 6th year of the ongoing pandemic, and they still want to keep their heads buried in the sand.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Because masks are oppression. No, dude, masks are there to protect against facial recognition software, you dumb fucks.
That's why you wear them to protest, you dumb fucks, too.
Exactly.
Oh, my God, bro. Bro.
Like,
oh,
we don't want to be told what to do.
This is why.
Fuck you dingleberries. You don't get the point. You don't have a right to spread a virus. And even if you did, again, going to a protest with your full face on camera, not a smart move.
Yeah.
Oh my!
In my town, they put more cameras around the fucking cameras on every fucking street corner now in my city. So if I go to a protest, I'm definitely fucking covering up my fucking face. What the? Man, you know what? That's why you probably notice me not being on in the group chats and stuff like I used to, because after these last few months, with these motherfuckers, time and time again,
a lot of the
bullshit.
Trolls. One guy actually burned some Italian sausage recently on Twitter, pointing out how a certain someone is now claiming a fourth ethnicity, Creole now, apparently, on top of Palestinian and African and Sicilian. But it's really dumbfounding because this guy's talking about oppression Olympics, and it's like, dude, you don't fucking know what oppression is, all right?
So don't.
But if you think you're going to score points, if you think you're going to score points by scolding people in an ongoing pandemic about mask wearing when you're trying to set up protests.
Oh my God, bro. I just don't know what to tell you, man.
Yeah. So many so-called leftists just want to cosplay online and not do shit in the real world. I mean, I don't claim to be a saint, but my job actually involves voter registration. Where I mean, I was actually the one on the street in 2020, getting people registered to vote and going out into neighborhoods that most white people wouldn't make it out of at night.
Yeah.
Just trying to talk
yourself
to
at risk too. COVID.
Yeah. So not just from COVID, but from going into East Cleveland, where it's like if you're a white guy out in East Cleveland after dark.
Oh yeah.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
But
even north side of Monroe, Louisiana,
even people in East Cleveland are afraid to go out at night in East Cleveland. It's not a good town. But you never see the Green Party out there either.
Yeah.
They're all in like
Yeah.
fuck
Yeah.
Franklin County or some rural uh, township out in the suburbs of Youngstown. And I'm like, dude, come on. You have to get into the big cities like Columbus, and actually outside of Columbus, like Toledo, Cleveland, East Cleveland, places
Yeah.
where, Democrats just never bother going. It's like
Yeah.
you're never going to see Caligula Drumpf or Hillary Clinton
Hillary
going
Clinton.
to East Cleveland or Barry Obama or Joe Braindead. None of them went to East Cleveland
Right.
or to
You ain't
Painesville
lying, man.
or to Lake County. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
they're nowhere to be found. So I mean, or even to Detroit.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you
Yeah.
got John Fetterman dressing like he thinks he's in the hood, and then he's just like bending over for Benjamin Netanyahu, a freaking war
I think
criminal.
John. Man, I
Or as
think
I
John
call him,
Fetterman.
Adolf Netanyahu, because
Yeah.
you put a little mustache right there, he looks a lot like Adolf.
Oh, show, dude. Damn, I
Even his
can't see that now.
hairstyle, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you know what though? I think John Fetterman gonna be a Republican, man. I think he gonna move on to the Republican
Yeah,
Party,
yeah.
man.
Rumor has it that he's going to be switching parties soon, which would be
Yeah.
hilarious because the Democrats voted. Well, no, I think the Democrats, some of them actually voted against Tulsi Gabbard. Now, Bernie Sanders certainly voted against her because she backstabbed him in 2020, dropping
Yeah.
out and endorsing Biden. So I was not surprised at all by that. But Gabbard got confirmed anyway, in spite of not bending over and condemning Edward Snowden as a traitor. That was probably the one and only position she's ever taken that was in public that was even remotely sincere. But
Yeah.
her politics are otherwise trash. But I was kind of surprised by the vote and how that went, because I was for sure thinking that all the Republican and Democrat senators would shoot her down. Just because they don't want her in a position to expose anything at the NSA. But with Muskrat writing the Treasury Department and the Department of Energy and God only knows what else, I think they've got bigger fish to fry right now. Like Trump apparently is deciding to get rid of pennies.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah. So according to CNN, Chris Isidore, I kept reading that as Isildur. It's like you failed, Isildur. Sauron got the One Ring. No, it's Chris Isidore on CNN. This was on Monday. Getting rid of the penny introduces a new problem: nickels. So Donald Trump says he's ordered the U.S. Mint to stop making pennies, which he correctly says cost more than 1 cent to produce. For far too long, the United States has minted pennies, which literally cost us more than 2 cents. This is so wasteful, he said in a post on his Truth Social platform, which has no truth on it. Let's rip the waste out of our great nation's budget, even if it's a penny at a time. Trump actually undersold the cost argument. Pennies cost more than 3 cents to produce, but there's a problem with this plan. Phasing out the penny could result in needing to make more nickels, and the U.S. Treasury Department loses far more money on every nickel than it does on every penny. Without the penny, the volume of nickels in circulation would have to rise to fill the gap in small value transactions. Far from saving money, eliminating the penny shifts and amplifies the financial burden, said American for Common Sense, spelled CENTS, a pro-penny group funded primarily by Artisan. This is one of those stupidly spelled names. I assume it's supposed to be a clever way of spelling artisan, but it's just got a stupid spelling. But the company's got the contract to provide the blanks used to make pennies. So apparently it costs something like 3.7 cents to produce and distribute pennies. So for every penny that is minted, it costs 3.7 cents to make. So that's 3 cents for the production costs and 0.7 cents per coin for administrative and distribution costs. So basically getting them out to banks and stores. But each nickel costs 13.8 cents, with 11 cents of that going to production costs and 2.8 cents of administrative and distribution costs. because you got to hire Brinks truck drivers and all that to get the coins from the mints to the banks and all that stuff. So yeah,
Right.
that is pretty solid on here for once from CNN. But the figures that are cited are for the government's fiscal year, which ends on September. So then it provides a helpful graph. And then it goes on to say, during that fiscal year, the Mint tried to cut those losses by making far fewer nickels, only 202 million, down 86% from the 1.4 billion nickels it minted in each of the 2 previous years. That's also far less, or far fewer, actually, because you can't actually count coins as individual units. I hate this freaking lack of proper grammar. It's far fewer than the 3.2 billion pennies it made in 2024 and the 4.1 billion it made in 2023 and 5.4 billion it made in 2022. So yeah, so even if the Mint has to make only 850,000 additional nickels in 2025 to meet demand from retailers, that will wipe out the savings of eliminating the penny. If it goes back up to making 1.4 million nickels a year, that would cost $78 million more than the cost of pennies it is no longer making. So much like with the Caligula Drumpf's tariffs, this would actually increase costs for Americans.
Of course. Yeah, costs always come down to us, don't it? Like
Yeah,
pass down to the workers.
so because he thinks he's, and you just know that Muskrat is probably the one pulling the strings behind getting rid of the penny, because Muskrat
Yeah.
decided, I don't like carrying a bunch of pennies in my pocket because it ruins the lining, and it's like, dude, first of all, most transactions are done with cards anyway, so I mean, why
Exactly.
are we even talking about coins? But
Yeah.
you know, this is one of those things where neither Trump or Muskrat has any idea of how government is supposed to work or what tariffs actually accomplish. You know,
Yeah.
these are idiots who don't know this system that they're trying to overturn, and so every solution they try and come up with actually just ends up being worse than the problem they were trying to solve.
Exactly. Exactly. 2 incompetent cretins, man. Telling you.
Yeah,
Oh boy.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then there's of course the Trump plan to take over Gaza, expel the Palestinians, and build real estate that his family could profit from. So about 5 days ago, Trump announced his intention to buy Gaza. Well, first of all, Gaza is not for sale. In
Exactly.
order to make this happen, Netanyahu would have to complete the genocide of Palestine in order to make these plans a reality. And logistically speaking, it's not really possible. The United States has exhausted its store of weapons, sending them to Ukraine and to Israel for the duration of the genocide. Right now, Netanyahu is threatening to end the ceasefire if the remaining Israeli hostages are not returned by 12 noon on Saturday. Now, of course, Israel's been violating the ceasefire agreement from day one.
Yeah.
So Hamas has been saying, you know, look, we've held up our end. You're not holding up your end. So we're going to need you to take the steps you're supposed to take before we implement anything else. And of course, that is being touted as a violation by Hamas of the ceasefire agreement. When no, it's not. Israel is not meeting its obligations. It's not returning the hostages it says it's going to return. It's slow walking the existing Palestinian hostages, many of whom look like Auschwitz survivors. So that's bringing up a lot of memories for a lot of Holocaust survivors and their descendants. And then on top of that, Netanyahu's plan is backfiring with the Israeli Knesset. One of the members was ripping into him pretty badly over the violation of the ceasefire agreement, saying that Netanyahu doesn't care about the hostages and he's placing them in further danger by refusing to abide by the terms of the ceasefire because he wants to keep the war going. Because if the war doesn't keep going, Netanyahu is going to prison.
Yep.
Because he's still facing corruption charges if he leaves office. But Trump, when he campaigned last year, he told the Israeli-American Council that during his first regime, he was the best friend Israel ever had. And then at the press conference 5 days ago, Netanyahu told Trump, "You're the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House." So Trump signed an executive order calling to deport international students who protest Israel's crimes against the Palestinian people. This is by Ben Norton on geopoliticaleconomy.com. Interesting story behind Ben Norton, actually, just as a segue. So Ben Norton was, along with Aaron Matei and a few others, at the Real News Network, which was a Maryland-based independent liberal left news outlet headed by Paul Jay, who's a documentary filmmaker and political analyst. Well, after Trump won in 2016, the people running the Real News Network decided to clean house of people doubting the Russiagate story. So Matei and Norton went over to the gray zone, where they started reporting on Russiagate and basically how much of a fraud it was. And then after the 2020 election, Blumenthal and Matei started joining Doorknob and Greenwald and going down the COVIDiot rabbit hole and adopting anti-trans, anti-BLM, anti-homeless rhetoric. Basically going full TYT. So Norton, in response to that, decided to pack his bags and leave in a way that kind of burned bridges with Blumenthal anyway. So and then Doorknob, for his part, because he doesn't want to piss off Blumenthal, started attacking Ben Norton over his mainly because of his stance recognizing the COVID pandemic for the danger it is, and also because he disagreed with Dorr and Blumenthal on the COVID convoy that terrorized Canada a few years ago. So
truckers.
Yeah, so so a lot of bad blood over there. But then Norton formed this website, and he's really good. He's got people like Michael Hudson writing. He's got let's see who else. And also Norton moved to China to get his PhD, I believe. So yeah, he's doing some pretty good stuff here. And so if you look on there, let's see, there's a issue with Ukraine that we've got all these minerals in Ukraine that we can't afford to lose. Now Trump is talking about that as well. But the thing about the idea to move Palestinians out of it, Trump is trying to bully Egypt and Jordan into taking the Palestinians out of Gaza. We're talking about 1.5 million people.
Yeah.
First of all, even if the Palestinians were inclined to go along with it, and they're not, there's no way in hell they'll go quietly. But Jordan, for example, almost 50% of its population is made up of Palestinian refugees who were expelled during the Nakba back in 1948. And they absolutely do not want any more. Because then where are Jordanians going to go if their country is taken over by Palestinians?
Exactly.
So so they don't want their country becoming a giant refugee camp, especially if Israel's just going to go ahead and lay claim to Jordan anyway, because Netanyahu wants his wet dream of greater Israel. So this isn't something that can actually be done. Egypt is already on record saying no, we're not going to take the Palestinians. Jordan agreed to take 2,000 Palestinian children, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, Jared Kushner, who's a big Israeli. Yeah. So Jared Kushner is Trump's son-in-law, and they're basically trying to cash in on waterfront property, because
Yeah.
Drumpf is a slumlord who got his money in real estate after inheriting his seed money from Poppy. So, the intention here is not even remotely subtle. Netanyahu wants to create greater Israel, and then completing the annexation of historical Palestine is the first step in that. And then once he's accomplished that, or so he thinks, then he's going to take over large swaths of Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, pretty much the entirety of biblical Israel, which leads to the next story here that was about 3 days ago by Mike Michioli over on geopoliticaleconomy.com, which is the U.S.-Israel backed overthrow of Syria's government was a blow to the Palestine liberation movement, which is true because Syria is no longer in a position to transport weapons from other countries to help the effort in Palestine. So it says here, opposition forces backed by NATO member Turkey launched an offensive in Syria in coordination with Israel and the United States on November 27th, 2024. Within the 11 days, the government of Syrian Arab Republic was toppled by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS. I'm going to mangle that completely, so I'm just going to call it HTS from now on. HTS leader Ahmad al-Shara was appointed the unelected president of Syria, really the dictator. Was previously the leader of al-Nusra Front, the Syrian branch of al-Qaeda, and was also an emissary of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the founder of ISIS. So, yeah, major league terrorist here. And when I say this guy's a terrorist, I am not saying that in terms of the U.S. Term for people who resist imperial aggression. I'm talking U.S. CIA-backed terrorists and Mossad-backed terrorists. So, the Syrian opposition receives a large amount of arms, funds, and training from outside countries, including the United States, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Turkey, and even Ukraine. Yeah, if you wonder where some of those missing weapons from Ukraine went, yeah, they went into ISIS hands.
Oh, geez.
So, yeah, a lot of this is basically intended to neuter support for Palestine. So having fought in wars against Israel in 1948, 1967, and 1973, Syria has never normalized relations with the Zionist regime. Israel has always wanted a friendly government in Syria, with fanatics ultimately aiming to take even more of Syria to establish a greater Israel. So Syria was supporting Hezbollah in Lebanon, and Hezbollah has also been supporting the Palestinian cause. I mean, it's been fighting primarily for Lebanon, and it has been receiving backing from Iran. But Hezbollah is a strong ally dating back to the latter's inception. Syria has played an important role since Hezbollah was founded in 1982. Syria's support was instrumental in the victory against Israel in the 2006 war, and it was a crucial supply line from Iran to Hezbollah for weapons used in the northern front against Israel following the Al-Aqsa flood operation. Then Syria hosted the Palestinian Fedayeen training camps beginning in the 1960s. Long served as a headquarters for Palestinian resistance factions such as PFLP, and opened offices for Hamas and PIJ during the Second Intifada. So, yeah, I mean, this is a huge deal because if you're trying to keep the movement to liberate Palestine from Israel afloat, Syria was a huge ally and backer, and also a transportation hub for weapons, money, and soldiers coming in from other regions. That their road was through Syria. Now, the destruction of Syria as a viable nation state, unfortunately, means that now you've got supply lines cut off. you've got allies cut off, and this is not going to be good for Palestine in the long term because probably the one nation other than Iran that has any kind of support for Palestinians that isn't lip service was Syria, and now that's gone.
Yeah.
So that just leaves Iran to back Lebanon and Palestine. And even though Iran has a stronger relationship with Russia and China and North Korea, but Iran is not the strongest cog in that machine.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of its own internal problems, and its leaders, I think, are stupid in denying permission to develop nuclear weapons as a deterrent. I think if Tehran were smart, I think it would go to its leaders and say, look, I know we made an agreement with the Russians, but Israel is going to attack us a lot sooner than later, and we need to have some kind of deterrent that says, look, you hit us again, we're hitting you back, and you're not getting back up. So even if they have just enough usable material within a week's time to install on their hypersonic missiles, which Israel is not able to intercept, even if it's a small amount, that's still enough that you can use that as a viable deterrent. And I don't see the mullahs actually going for that. And I think Moscow, for its part, really would not have a nuclear armed Iran because of the possibility that Israel might get stupid and try to nuke Iran as a preemptive measure. At which point, Russia would have no choice but to enter the war on the side of Iran to defend its ally. And at that point, we're talking World War III and nuclear holocaust.
World War III. Yeah. Yeah. I think we're more closer to World War III now than ever. What you think?
I think so. Unfortunately. About the only thing that might save us is Trump being a fucking idiot.
I know.
I mean, he was no
too.
less hostile to Russia than Joe Biden was, but he at least recognized the need to stay on some kind of communication terms with Moscow and make sure that we don't accidentally nuke the entire planet. But Drumpf was actually setting sanctions on Russia during his first term, and people seem to forget that or ignore it because they want to portray him as being a Putin puppet. No, he never was, but yeah, that's something that really, I think, because he is so incompetent, he thinks he can dictate terms to Moscow, and it's not going to happen. So, anything he tries to do with Netanyahu to try and attack Iran, I think will probably blow up in his face. I hope literally, because you remember Trump's press conference with Netanyahu the other day. Netanyahu stuck a gold-plated pager in his pocket. Considering the pager attacks that Israel launched in Lebanon last year, if I were Trump, I might ask someone to take a look at that pager and make sure it's not booby-trapped.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm just saying, man.
That's smart.
Never trust Netanyahu.
Yeah.
Never trust Netanyahu.
Netanyahu a dirty motherfucker. Like, he'll do some shit like that.
Yahoo Netanyahu. Not Yahoo Netanyahu. That's what I'm calling him from now on.
Yeah.
But speaking of Yahoos, South Korea just indicted 63 people over the courthouse rampage by Yoon supporters. It's from February 10th, because South Korea is still an ongoing clusterfuck, and I'm just here for it because South Korean prosecutors this week indicted 63 people for their role in storming a court building last month to protest the imprisonment of impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol, with some facing charges carrying up to a 7-year jail term, an official said. Hundreds of angry Yoon supporters stormed the Seoul Western District Court in the pre-dawn hours of January 19th, destroying property and trespassing into judges' chambers as some live streamed the incident. So this is basically the South Korean version of January 6, 2021, because they're trying to prevent their dictator from going to prison.
Wow.
And the thing about South Korea is it doesn't play games the way the United States does. The United States failed to prosecute successfully the January 6th rioters or Trump for egging it on.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in South Korea, they're actually prosecuting these motherfuckers and putting them in prison. And as well, on the same day that indictment came down, former President Moon Jae-in spoke to South Korean publication. I'm going to mangle the name, so I'm just going to let people read it. I think it's Hank Yora. I probably mangled that. But yeah, he said the headline says, deeply mortified, Moon apologizes to Koreans for enabling Yoon's rise. So let's go ahead and read this. So former President Moon Jae-in sat down on Friday at his home in the rural village of Pyeongsan in the country's South Gyeongsang province for his first interview with the media since his departure from office in May 2022. During our conversation, which lasted more than 2 hours, Moon offered his frank opinion on current events, opening up about the shock and rage he felt at the abrupt declaration of martial law on 3rd December 2024, his take on the future of South Korean democracy, and the appropriate course of action for the Democratic Party of Korea. He also looked back on his process of appointing Yoon as prosecutor general during his administration. Initially, I was so taken aback, I thought it was fake news from YouTube, Moon said as he recalled his successor's sudden martial law declaration on 3rd of December. When I heard him describing the opposition as being all anti-state forces and declaring his plans to eradicate anti-state forces, I thought this president is really suffering from profound delusions. When asked about how he felt witnessing Yoon deny all charges of insurrection during his impeachment trial, Moon said Yoon's desperate attempts to stay in power came across as repugnant and embarrassing. So when you've got the guy who helped you rise to power apologizing to the nation for helping you in, and you're facing a lifetime in prison, that's bad.
Yeah.
This guy is so fucked.
They come out his ass, Nick.
Yeah, so broaching his choice to nominate Yoon to that prosecutor position, who was then chief of the Seoul Central District Prosecutor's Office to serve as the nation's prosecutor general at the beginning of his presidential term, Moon recalled that his opinions in the Blue House were divided over Yoon. While not many opposed his nomination, those who were against it had been close to Yoon during his time as a prosecutor. As such, it proved to be quite a conundrum, the former president said. Out of our two final nominees, one was opposed to prosecution reform, while Yoon had shown openness to reform, Moon said, explaining his choice of Yoon. I guess you could say both Cho and I were too fixated on prosecutorial reform, he went on. I have long regretted that moment. Now, I don't know who this Cho is to whom he's referring. I'm assuming it's someone within the government at the time. Since Yoon emerged victorious from the presidential election, Moon said he had been deeply mortified to have handed the presidency to such a person. I can't even put into words how ashamed I felt when martial law and impeachment happened. The remorse I feel towards South Korean citizens is so deep, I lie awake at night unable to sleep. So Yoon really has no friends left in the South Korean government. Everyone's throwing him under the bus, even the guy who helped him rise to power. In fact, according to the Global Times, South Korean far-right conservatives fabricated China interference rumors as a cheap political stunt. So, again, this is according to the Global Times, which I believe is a Chinese publication. But it says, since the martial law crisis in South Korea last December, some members of the People Power Party, which is Yoon's party, have deliberately stoked anti-China sentiment. According to the Korea Times, since January, some supporters of the impeached president Yoon Suk-yeol have held rallies every Friday evening along Myeongdong Street in central Seoul to stir up anti-China sentiment by spreading rumors about China's alleged involvement in election fraud. The allegation of China's interference in South Korea's elections is nothing more than a political farce orchestrated by certain far-right conservatives in South Korea. Recently, absurd claims related to China are often heard. According to the Korea Times, PPP lawmaker, that's one of the most unintentionally hilarious sounding acronyms for a political
Yeah.
party. It's like PPP. I mean, P. It's like, oh my god. Yeah, I know. I'm 12 years old. But so the People Power lawmaker Kim Min-gyeon did not provide any evidence when she claimed during a rally on January 2nd that Chinese nationals were showing support for impeachment everywhere they go. Additionally, Yoon's defense lawyer absurdly alleged that the National Election Commitment's password 12345 for its electronic system appears to be a connection code between China's central and local governments, as if it were designed to grant access to China. These fabricated and baseless accusations attempt to drag China's name into South Korea's domestic political issues. Now, does the password 12345 sound at all familiar to you?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Spaceballs?
Yeah,
Where
I've seen it.
yeah, where Dick Van Patten, the password to the shield protecting his home world was 12345, and then Dark Helmet, played by Rick Moranis, says, "What the hell kind of password is that?" So that's like something an idiot would have on his luggage, and then Mel Brooks comes in and says, "Wow, what a coincidence! That's exactly the combination for my luggage." So, by the way, the combination on my luggage is not 12345. I'm just putting that out there. So
Mine either. So
yeah, but yeah, So why was the National Election Commission's password 12345 for I mean, that is the dumbest fucking move you can make. That it's like anyone could hack into it. It's like, seriously, I mean, I could hack into it. You know, I could just put in a random number generator if I knew what I was doing, and it would come in like 1, 2. Oh, they really are that stupid. Oh my god!
Oh my god, bro.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like it's kind of like that with the elections in Romania and Georgia. They keep saying, "Oh, Russia interference," and absolutely no evidence given. And same thing's going on in South Korea, where they're trying to blame everything on China and North Korea as an excuse to try and keep Yoon in power. But who the fuck comes up with 12345 for an election commission password? I mean, you just know Muskrat and his team of Gen Z hackers is changing all the passwords to government systems to something so. I guarantee you, it's something like this. It's something stupid like this that anyone, like any amateur, would be able to break into it, because these guys think they know all about coding. In fact, actually, there was a, let me see if I can find the bookmark for this. I think I bookmarked this for later use, but let me see if I can call it up here. Because there was something that Muskrat had posted that garnered attention that showed he really doesn't know anything about coding, because he was talking about, there's not enough deduplicating going on in public systems. And, that this person was saying something along the lines of, okay, so there's any number of reasons why you wouldn't want to get rid of duplicate numbers or IDs, mainly having to do with making sure that no one else tries to steal those.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to look it up here. I bookmark way too many items here. And I don't know if I'm going to fight it here. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, so all right, here it is. I'll send it to you, and you can call it up. But this is an example of why Muskrat doesn't know jack shit about engineering and why people are so stupid to give him any credit for anything. So it says over 30 years of database development and SQL coding. Just to be clear, and I've gotten plenty of backup from other DBAs on Twitter on this, Elon's tweet about deduplication of the Social Security database was bullshit and exposes one of three things. He's not the brilliant engineer he wants you to believe he is. 2, he's lying. 3, both 1 and 2.
Exactly. I knew that even before all this shit came out. Like, as a fucking kid, like you can
Yeah,
tell by the way he
and then
talks.
someone is
That shit makes yeah.
and then you know what? Let's see. This one has. Okay, so this one also has a Nazi flag emoji in the user profile handle. So take that as a grain of salt by what this guy is saying. But this guy says, as a software engineer, I can assure you that this is absolute bullshit. The process of deduplicating a database is called normalization. There are various degrees of normalization, but in practice, trust me, no database is ever fully normalized. The reasons for not fully normalizing a database are mostly performance, because systematic normalization will lead to an increased number of joins, which negatively impact the query performance. Another reason could be historizing data. In this case, you want to keep a copy of data as it was at a certain point, which inevitably leads to duplication. In short, there's absolutely no ground to conclude that there is fraud because the database is not fully normalized. Once again, Muskrat proves he is a shit engineer. So yeah, and then of course you have to also keep in mind here: are you seeing data deduplication, which is redundant data, due to children without a parent who died receiving benefits carried over, so they're not left in poverty? So separate statements, same number for each child. So I mean, this is like when Muskrat took over Twitter. It decided, oh yeah, I'm going to get rid of all this extraneous code that I don't like, that I think is slowing down my phone, even though it's actually his phone that's slow, not Twitter. So he mandated removing a bunch of code, not understanding what the fuck it does or how it works. And as a result, Twitter is constantly glitching because he fired all the people who knew how to fix this. So, this is an example of why you should never put people in charge of any government institution who don't know jack shit about anything like cybersecurity or how systems are designed to operate. So North Korea found out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What the?
It's like,
that's wild.
I mean,
the wildest shit I heard all night.
It's like, guys, look, I love Korean barbecue, but you do know Spaceballs was only supposed to be a movie, right? You weren't actually supposed to do anything from the movie. Oh my god! And I guarantee you, Muskrat's the password to Muskrat's phone is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Either that or 67890. Knowing him.
Oh god! Or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
For all we know.
5, 4, 3, 2. Oh god! Oh god! We fucked Mike. We fucked, bro. Like this guy has the control of the Treasury payment system. Oh my god, bro.
Yeah, and it's not just,
Uh,
and that's not the only thing we have to worry about, because it's not just our Social Security payments or our
yeah,
Medicaid, which they want to cut $800 billion out of, uh, or or
right.
or anything like that. Okay, breaking into the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau database
Oh
gives
yeah,
Muskrat inside information on his competitors. And it's not
yeah,
just Facebook or Amazon. We're talking pretty much anything, like AI, you name it. So he's got a leg up on his competitors. Now,
yeah,
Nancy Pelosi and her family is infamous for using insider trading as a member of Congress to uh, gamble on the stock market, knowing the outcome, so that she can get her maximum profits. That's how she became a 100 millionaire. I think she's got something like $260 million in the bank as a result of all of her shady insider trading schemes. Well, what do you think Muskrat is going to do with all that?
oh man.
I don't
Shoot.
trust any politician
Yeah,
with insider information. And
right.
as flawed as the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is, it was offering some level of protection for people and actually giving money back to people who've been defrauded by large financial institutions.
Yeah, yeah,
So shutting that down is uh, illegal, as is shutting down the Department of Education. The executive orders that are coming through that is just a flurry, and none of it's actually legal. In fact, a Wall Street Journal was reporting on how a judge directed Trump to comply with order on frozen funds. So basically, what this is the executive orders doing a funding freeze on all these various agencies are blatantly illegal. In order to halt grants approved by Congress, Trump has to go to Congress and get it to revoke those grants. He cannot simply do it by executive order. He has to go through Congress in order to do it. That's all the courts are saying. And similarly, the TimesUnion.com is reporting a third judge blocked Trump's order ending birthright citizenship for children of people who are illegally in the United States. Uh, so basically, the judiciary is doing its job, and of course, Vance and other regime officials are complaining that the judiciary is intruding onto the executive branch's territory, but no, it's not. It's actually saying, no, you cannot legally do this. Okay, it took an act of Congress to create these agencies and create the funding for them. It requires an act of Congress in order to end these agencies and cut off funding. So all these judges are saying is, you have to go through Congress. And as far as ending birthright citizenship, that requires an entire fucking constitutional amendment, because the 14th Amendment to the Constitution basically lays out in black and white, all people born in the United States are United States citizens, regardless of whether or not their parents are. And
yep,
the reason for this has to do with when slavery was formally abolished, at least on paper, following the Civil War. They wanted to make sure that the children of people who had been born into slavery and had no citizenship, under various state laws at that time, were made into U.S. citizens, and that their children born after that point would also be recognized as United States citizens. And the side benefit, of course, was, someone who's from a foreign country but not yet a citizen but has a kid here. Well, that child would have citizenship even if the parent doesn't. So even if you deported the parent, you cannot legally deport the child. And what Trump is trying to do here is to deport the children, basically under the lie of anchor babies that Fox Noise Channel was all about during the 2000s, and pretending that people were coming here solely to have babies so they could stay in the country. It's like, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is something that's blatantly illegal. You need a constitutional amendment to go ahead and undo this. So Trump is basically in a situation where he knows he can't do any of the shit he promised with regards to lowering grocery prices or fuel prices or pretty much or protect American industries or bring industries back to the United States. He cannot make good on those promises. He never had any intention of making good on those promises. He has no idea how to keep those promises, even if he did have any intention of keeping them. Because tariffs are basically a tax on imported goods, and America doesn't make anything anymore. In order for those tariffs and sanctions to work, you have to make it prohibitively expensive for U.S. corporations to have goods made overseas. NAFTA and other free trade agreements, to which the United States is a signatory, were written specifically so that corporations could ship manufacturing overseas so that they could get around labor and environmental laws. Because they didn't want to pay American workers a decent wage to make all these goods, so they transitioned the United States from a manufacturing economy to a service-based economy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And because of that, we don't make anything anymore. It's all made in like China, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Mexico, places, Canada even, although its own manufacturing base has been decimated. So he knows he can't bring any of that back. And the tariffs are not going to work on that. All it's going to do, much like with the Pennies situation we were talking about earlier, this is going to do is cost Americans more money. So all he's got left really is throwing red meat to his MAGA voters with a bunch of executive orders that won't stand up in court.
Yeah.
Not that Trump is actually going to do any of what the court is saying, and the Congress is not at all inclined to even do anything. I don't even know if Congress half the time is in session anymore, because we're not hearing a peep out of anything coming out of Congress with regards to saying, hey, you're stepping on our toes here. We're the ones supposed to be defunding all this. I mean, there was a bill, I think, introduced to eliminate the Department of Education and eliminate I'm trying to remember exactly which department. I think it was a Department of Education. But that was a bill that was actually introduced in Congress. And it has to pass both chambers and then go to the executive's desk to be signed into law. But you can't simply do that by executive dictate. And that is the thing that Trump is too stupid to realize. You cannot only get away with putting on such clown show behavior for so long.
Yeah.
Because people are hungry in this country. I mean, there was bipartisan, almost universal support for Luigi Mangione following his arrest. It got to the point where the oligarchs and their media lapdogs were so disturbed by the bipartisan support for the execution of a mass murdering CEO who denied health insurance claims to thousands of people, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, people who died as a direct result of his decision to deny health care. They were so disturbed by that they basically imposed a media blackout on the trial.
Yeah.
You have to go hunting for developments in that story, because they know if it becomes a publicized trial, that's going to resurrect all the anti-corporate sentiment that's got Elon Muskrat trying to get a $400 million deal with the State Department to supply Tesla armored vehicles to State Department officials. Now, granted, people are stupid for thinking Elon Muskrat is some kind of genius, but you can't be so insane that you look at the history of Muskrat's cars and rockets exploding at random because he likes to cut corners.
Yeah.
I mean, the Cybertruck looks like something that was designed by Homer Simpson. It literally looks like a restroom trash can.
Yeah.
I've seen the pictures. Someone superimposed a picture of a Cybertruck above a picture of a restroom trash can, and I was laughing my ass off for weeks. And it's like, you just know Muskrat woke up one day and it's like, yeah, I want that for my next truck. I want to make my next truck look exactly like that, man. Because that is so cool. That is art. And because he doesn't know shit about developing a car, he cuts corners and, and you just know Muskrat doesn't drive his own vehicles because he wouldn't, okay? I mean, he's stupid, but he's not quite so stupid as to do a Stockton Rush.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Stockton Rush is still crushed over the failure of his Ocean Gate submersible.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. Yeah.
I think we're at the 1 year anniversary of that, by the way.
Yeah. When that happened, like 2023, 2024? I forgot
2024,
when that happened.
Right. Yeah. Because what happened was...
Okay.
So you got this billionaire who thinks he's so much smarter than actual engineers who've been working for decades on submersibles and who understand things like on pressure and how deep you can go. And it's like they're very specific, tried and true safety regulations in designing and building submarines. Because they have to be able to withstand extreme pressures going down 4,000 meters.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Titanic is very fragile after over a century under the water, and its remains lying where they are. That thing could collapse completely at any moment. So, and it doesn't help that it's 4,000 meters below, where if you're submersible isn't filled with something that can push back against that pressure, it's going to implode, which is exactly what happened with the Ocean Gate submersible that was made out of fiberglass instead of a high quality steel, and there was no real support frame under. I mean, they had a freaking control pad drilled directly into the hull. You never do that. I mean, James Cameron, when he went down in his submersible that he had designed specifically for that purpose, even he had to go through rigorous testing and certification just to pilot that thing, and and that thing had to be built to specifications that ensured that he would come back alive. And Rush thought he was smarter than all that. It's like, no, you're not. And I would be laughing if not for the fact
don't make you smart.
Some 19-year-old kid, I think 17-year-old or 18-year-old kid was forced to go along by his rich asshole father, and he ended up dying. It's like the only mercy for that kid was, he didn't even realize he was dead before he died. So, that happened just over a year ago now, and people are still kind of laughing about it, and I am, at least over Stockton Rush. I'm just sad for the teenager, because the adults. Well, I mean, I want to call them adults either, because rich people are children who have failed to grow up. Yeah. Well, that's true of all right wingers, but they're children who have been coddled their whole lives and never had to work for anything. And so they always fail upward, and mommy and daddy's money bailed them out of trouble until mommy and daddy die, and then by that time they've already connived their way into politics. So So now you've got Muskrat in charge of the United States through his puppet Trump, and Steve Bannon is trying desperately to get back in Trump's good graces and force Muskrat out because he sees Muskrat as being a dangerous influence on the MAGA movement. Because remember, Steve Bannon came out of Breitbart Noise because Andrew Breitbart had started that as his that was like Alex Jonestown's InfoWars before InfoWars was actually started. So Breitbart passed away in the late 2000s, and then Steve Bannon took over. Alex Jonestown started his InfoWars after Breitbart went away. So Bannon is trying to get back into the White House. But I don't think he's going to succeed in that because Muskrat seems to have a pretty firm grip on Drumpf right now. Mainly because he threw so much money at Drumpf. Because, Drumpf's got legal fees to pay off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he needed Muskrat's money.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I heard too that Trump was getting tired of at one time.
Yeah, there were some pushback, but I think Muskrat basically headed that off and started pushing out the people who were bitching about him being so obnoxious.
Yeah.
So, because if you notice, Muskrat is constantly either on camera or talking off camera, kind of basically guiding Trump's conversations in the direction he wants it to go. So, I think at this point, Trump is firmly in Muskrat's back pocket and probably doesn't have the wherewithal to really stand up for himself anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas if he won in 2020, he might have felt bold enough to bring Bannon back. But at this point, I think right now Muskrat is in full control of Trump, and getting him out of there is not going to be easy.
Oh yeah,
it's going to take something monumentally stupid on Muskrat's part to get him in a situation where Trump decides he's more trouble than he's worth. And I don't know. We've got 4 years of this shit.
Oh God, man,
it hasn't even been a month yet. Yeah,
it's been over 3 weeks now. I mean, like, holy shit.
Yeah, and it feels like 3 months.
Oh man, oh my God, man. Like me trying to talk about this shit on my shows, man. It like probably why I didn't have the energy like last week to do this, because I'm like, oh God, I gotta cover what the fuck Muskrat did, what the fuck Trump did, like, oh God. But
yeah, it's
I'm
coming
getting
at
my
a
groove
faster
back.
pace,
So
and we're really able to. But
yeah,
it's really, really just absolutely unbelievable. But
yeah,
but speaking of that, speaking of unbelievable, I added a new design to my clothing store because I designed some very basic clothing items on crowdmade.com to try and help raise money for my YouTube channels. So I just sent you the link to my GoFundMe and my crowdmade collection. So I developed one for my the Left Independent YouTube channel. I'm trying to get alternate colors on for the hoodies and t-shirts. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and send people, and actually, if you want to start your own crowdmade store, you can actually go ahead and do that as well. I mean, it doesn't have to be limited to just me, but yeah, a lot of people use those because they handle actually manufacturing the stuff. I mean, you design it, and then they provide the template for it, and then you just go ahead and sell it, and then the website takes its cut, and then you take your percentage. So if people don't want to donate to my GoFundMe, they can actually get something tangible in return for their money, and help me raise money for my TEFL courses, because I went ahead and got the course this week. Just started today, actually, after reading through the reading material Monday, and then yesterday I had some stuff I had to do out in the real world, and then today I started with the introductory stuff on there. So I'm going to be posting an update on my GoFundMe channel with some screen caps and really kind of giving an idea, because so far the first section of that is like having to evolved with grammar, and I actually already have some grammar books either on my shelf or coming in from bookseller, because one of those is I found it in good condition on Amazon actually, but I don't like shopping on Amazon if I can help it, so I just use that to try and track down the specific edition on another site. But it's called Warrener's Grammar and Composition. Now, it's a little dated, by some measures, but Stephen King recommended that in his book on writing, which is one half of his autobiography, and then the second half goes into teaching the craft of writing. And Warrener's Grammar and Composition is actually top of his list, along with the E.B. Strong's Elements of Style. So actually, I've got those right here. So one of these is, this is The Elements of Style, William Strunk and E.B. White. So this will help make you a better writer. All right, it's very basic, not very big.
Yeah, I need to cop it.
But it is very technical. But one of the biggest things that Strunk advises is to eliminate needless words. So needless words are words that add to your word count, but that don't convey any needed information. So you want to try and eliminate needless words. Like so many people on YouTube, when they do their descriptions of past events, they said, so and so would go on to do this. No, it's not so. No, that is needless words. Okay, you're adding to your runtime with words that are, first of all, that's kind of passive voice, and also you're just loading up your word count without actually saying anything. No, it's like Einstein went to work at this patent office, and there he developed his theory of special relativity. It's not he would go on to do this. No, he did it. So that's, some of the stuff that Strunk recommends. And then, of course, another one is Diana Hacker's Rules for Writers, which I will try to make appear here. But it's getting all shiny and reflective.
Reflective with you.
Okay, there it is. All right, Rules for Writers, Diana Hacker. This is, I think, is a 6th edition. That's how long I've had it. I think there's updated ones that you can get. And then this one is Kate L. Turabian, Manual for Writers, 8th edition. I don't know if there's a 9th edition yet, but you can get this. And also I recommend the Chicago Manual of Style, because that, again, especially if you're going into academia and you're writing research papers, as a historian, Chicago Manual of Style is the citation guide that they usually, either that or Turabian citation is what they want you using. And as a teacher, having grammar books is going to be essential. So there are a few that TEFL.org recommended. I may or may not get those, depending on my finances. I don't get paid again until next week, so we'll see what happens. But I may have to bite the bullet and get those, because if they recommend specific textbooks for the course, I'm probably going to have to get those out of pocket. So far I've only had 2 donations on my GoFundMe. And I understand people are low on money and may not be able to afford to donate someone, but if you go to my store, you're at least getting something for your money. That way it's
Yeah.
not so much coming off as a charity, but you're actually getting something in return. So that's, if you're going to donate to my GoFundMe, I would appreciate that, and you'll have my gratitude. But if you want to get something in return, you can go to my store and pick up merchandise from there. And while you're at it, watch my YouTube channels, because I'm going to try and get back into YouTubing if I can get some storage space to have my video files on in case I need to re-edit anything or do that, because I don't like to delete stuff unless absolutely necessary, because if it's uploaded to the cloud, if I lose access to my Google accounts like Gmail, that's it. Everything I had is just gone.
Yeah.
So
Here.
wow. So we've been over an hour and 20 minutes now. So is there anything you've got to say?
No, man. Yeah, you said it all for me. You made me laugh, man.
Reminds me of talking to
And
my
also
fiance,
too,
because she doesn't talk much either. But I don't actually like to be the only one talking. I only do that because everyone else is either not talking or
yeah.
But
Yeah.
so I do appreciate all their feedback, and if there's stories you want to talk about, obviously feel free to bring them up. I mean, I've got no problem bouncing off your ideas either.
Yeah.
But if we can get Athena here, oh my God, just let her talk. I won't even say anything. I'll have my mic.
Yeah, I have my mic open. Yeah. I'm definitely. I need to get in contact with Feeney after we get off of here, man.
Or get her onto ATP network. It's like imagine her, Liz, you, and me, all on that, and just bouncing off of each other. It'd be epic.
Yeah, man. Adding a Feeney to the ATP network. Oh my God, man. We'll go.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
We'll go beyond levels. Yeah, like that's what we need. But I'm glad we got the other crap off the network. You know what I mean? The other crap.
The maggot cheese. There's a certain troll on Twitter who's been pretending to be black or African, even though she's 100% Sicilian. No, I think she's mentioned her grandfather was from Spain, but yeah, she's been pretending to be African, and then me being the history major, master's in history from graduated 2 years ago. I looked up the history of Sicily, and it's actually quite a mixed culture. I mean, it's not that there's no African influence there. I mean, it's not much, but it is somewhat significant. But genetically speaking, and I'm not talking about the cultural aspects now, but genetically speaking, on average, Sicilians only have about 6% African DNA from North Africa, and much of that is from the Carthaginians and the Moors, who were a mix of Arab and Semitic peoples with North Africans, because the Phoenician Empire had stretched across the Mediterranean. This is like pre-Roman, pre-Greek empires. So you had the Greeks and the Phoenicians. So the Phoenicians were Semitic people from what's now the Middle East. They established colonies in Sicily, North Africa, all over. And then Carthage rose up to replace the Phoenician Empire after that faded. And then Carthage was competing with Rome for control of the region. And so you had colonies on Sicily and North Africa. And Carthage was actually a North African Phoenician colony in its beginning. So, but then, of course, the Punic Wars happened. And then, so Rome destroys Carthage, completely annihilates it. So there is that genetic impact, but most Sicilians are a mix of Italians, Greeks, Normans, Balkans, Berbers from North Africa and Iberia, and even the Berbers and the Moors were. I mean, and she's saying it's racist to use the word Moor as though I'm using the N word. It's like, no, it was a catch-all phrase for Muslims, general term for Muslims from Iberia, which is Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. So it's not like they were referring to a specific ethnicity. And keep in mind, during the Middle Ages, the concepts of race during the medieval and classical times are not the same as the concepts of race today. But those are actually very relatively recent, like within the last 300-400 years. And then only to justify the African slave trade. So, you're talking out your ass there, maggot cheese. But she has in her user handle that calls herself a form of Italian cheese, which is not even Sicilian. And I was like, okay, you know what? No. You're not provolone anymore. You're maggot cheese from Sardinia.
Maggot cheese,
it's from another country. It's like, no. Sardinia and Sicily are both part of Italy.
Yeah.
It's like, do you not know your own fucking history? It's like we're colonized. We're a separate country from. Yeah, no, not since 1846, dude. Okay, it's like, forget it. You're not. I mean, hell. I mean, Spain's got its own problems with breakaway regions that have been trying to secede from Spain. But Spain actually, as a modern nation, has only existed since like the 15th century, and even then, the late 15th century, because Christopher Columbus, when he petitioned Ferdinand and Isabella to fund his voyage to India via the Atlantic Ocean, they had only just recently, like within the previous decade or so, had finally united Spain as a United Kingdom. Prior to that, Iberia was a collection of smaller kingdoms that had really existed under the rule of the Moors, who had come in, like I said, from the Middle East and North Africa, and took over for a while. And so for a very long time, you had a Muslim presence in Europe, like Western Europe. So, that goes away starting in the 15th century as the Ottoman Empire starts weakening. It had taken over the Byzantine Empire, which had been decimated by a crusade in the 1200s. Western Crusaders decided, we can't make it all the way to Istanbul or to Jerusalem to lay claim to those cities again. So we're just going to settle for sacking Constantinople and leaving that a shadow of its former self. And so, for a couple hundred years, the Byzantine Empire suffered from being picked at by the surrounding Ottomans, and eventually fell in 1453. So, the Ottoman Empire pretty much gained some territory in Eastern Europe, but it lost its territory in Western Europe because it had to consolidate its power in the East. So that's basically a condensed history of it. There's a lot of stuff that may not be entirely accurate, just because I'm trying to give you the very Cliff Notes version. So don't take that as a comprehensive history. But that's the gist of what happened. So that there's this very mixed dynamic in Sicily that and even by village, you'll have people who are more Greek, people who are more Sicilian, people who are more Italian from the mainland, from Rome, people who are more Semitic origins, not just from Phoenicia and Carthage, but also from Jewish refugees who had fled Europe and come to the island before even the Moors came in. So that was like pre-Middle Ages. So you've got a whole lot of mixture there. And it's only within the last 100 years or so that you start seeing more of a mix, because Italy was encouraging migration, between the mainland and the islands. So, but for the most part, Sicilians are mostly Italian and Greek, and then you've got some in there and some other stuff mixed in. But this idiot is claiming to be African and indigenous. Yeah, you're indigenous European there. Okay, that's not the flex you think it is. Okay, being indigenous European is not something to boast about. Okay, that's like saying, yes, I'm an indigenous Anglo-Saxon.
She's an idiot.
No,
Yeah,
no.
she's an idiot. Idiot. It's an idiot.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
I've got an indigenous American ancestor somewhere back along my family line, but I don't call myself an indigenous person, because I'm like
Me either.
99% white or something like that.
Me either.
So,
Yeah.
it's just so stupid, and then using that to be racist toward actual people of color like you and Liz, and trying to bully people, and then claim victim status behind a fabricated minority identity. And like, dude, come on! It's like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but yeah, she was flipping her shit all week because I just kept messing with her, and uh, just by posting history, okay, and it's like,
Yeah.
and then
Facts.
finally she went ahead and got sloppy, started posting selfies and stuff online, and it's like, we do have, because I've had her blocked for a while. She's had me blocked. Okay, so whatever. But there are mutual followers who do see her account, and people do send each other stuff to keep track
Yeah.
of what's going on. So and I'm not going to say who sent me what,
Yeah. Yeah. I have people
but
like that too, man.
yeah, but she's saying, hey, I need $100 for groceries, and she's showing off a really ghetto looking press-on manicure that she says cost her $90. Hey, I need $100 for now. Look, I don't
Okay. Okay.
I don't condemn people for paying for a blue check for Twitter, because
Yeah.
like $8 or whatever people are paying for it. uh I at least understand why people do that, because they know that the blue
Go
check
live.
gives you more visibility, and if you're trying to
Yeah.
build a follower, you have to rely on visibility. So I'm less liable to condemn people for buying a blue check. But if you've got children to feed,
Oh yeah. I see what you're
the
saying.
last thing you want to do
Exactly.
is post photos of a $90 crappy ghetto ass looking manicure that you overpaid by like $70 or $80, and then turn around and say, hey, can I get $100 to help feed my kids? Well, do you think maybe the money you spent getting the stupid looking press on nails could have gone to feed your
Oh
kid?
God, man.
Like,
Yeah, man. Like,
yeah.
she,
So
you know what though? You know what though, Mike? I helped that motherfucker twice before. Like, but you know, like you said, like if you're gonna spend $90 on some manicure shit, uh, like you know what I mean? Like
yeah, it's like
you gotta
priorities.
compare
Like,
it.
I
You gotta
remember my
compare it.
younger brother some years ago, after he inherited my dad's house. He was uh, complaining that his water heater had broken. It was either the furnace or the water boiler. I forget which. But he said he needed $1,500 to fix that, and or get it replaced. But then he was saying, I bought a $1,500 sofa. It's like, well, do you think maybe instead of buying the sofa for $1,500, I mean, if you're spending a grand and a half on a sofa, you're doing something wrong. Okay,
Yeah,
it should not cost that much. All right,
yeah,
so just return the fucking
yeah.
sofa and use it to replace your water heater.
What? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
then of course, and then apparently my
Yeah.
brother sold the house last year, and I actually went by there on Saturday this last weekend, and the new owners have completely changed it. I mean, my dad's garden is all gone. Well, my brother had taken out the garden and put the lawn back in, but even the lawn is messed up. The front lawn is pretty much gone. I don't know what the new owner plans on doing it. The backyard is gone. The new owner just laid gravel going all the way back to the garage. Uh, so yeah, and then painted the house this really awful shade of blue, and yeah, it's just really, yeah. So it's just kind of emotionally troubling, to
Yeah.
say the least. But at least I got to go through my old neighborhood and see, what's changed and what's stayed the same. Like the Lutheran church I went to it as a kid, that's been turned into a Samdan church, which I looked it up. Apparently, it's a Nambian denomination, which is like this like some kind of African Protestant denomination. So it's kind of interesting that my old church is now got a predominantly African congregation because when it was still a Lutheran church, it was predominantly white, very conservative, the kind of conservative that would support Trump today. So yeah, and then yeah, there's something poetic about that because when my dad was on the board of trustees for that church back in the 90s, he saw what was happening with the neighborhood in terms of the demographics changing.
Oh, Penny?
Yeah, yeah. So I was talking about how my dad was looking at the changing demographics. The main road in my neighborhood, Lorraine Road, was becoming much more Arab and Muslim because a lot of immigrants coming over from the Middle East at that time. So my dad saw the writing on the wall and was trying to make peace with the growing Muslim community within the neighborhood. And I remember that there was this Arab grocery store across the street from the church, and he worked out this deal where they were allowed to use the church parking lot when we weren't using it during the week, and in exchange the church got in return. But he was trying to have a dynamic where the church, like the local Christian church, is not coming into conflict with the new Muslim community, because when you've got that. When you've got demographics changing, it's like, because my dad grew up in like old Slavic village over on the east side of Cleveland, and during the 1980s and 1990s, the Slavics moved out to places like Parma and like North Royalton and west side of Cleveland, and blacks and Hispanics started coming into the neighborhood. So now Slavic village is called that in name only. There's not a whole lot of Slavic people left. And so the same thing was happening to my old neighborhood on the west side in the late 90s and early 2000s. So, there's a lot of those stores still on there, but then there's still some stuff there that is the same. There's this wonderful German restaurant over on Lorraine and West 131st called Der Braumeister. So they've got like a bar that you go into, and then you just walk through the open doors in the bar to the restaurant portion. But I used to go there before the pandemic, for a meal and a beer. Because you can get a pretty decent meal for a. Oh, are we back? All right. Yeah, my connection is not all that stable, so I might have to pop off. But yeah, it was nice and quiet at that bar, and it's not rowdy. It's like it really was. I don't want to call it a family establishment, but it wasn't like someplace where people are going to get drunk and act like assholes. No, it's like you're going there for like potato pancakes or Wiener Schnitzel, and they even had a deli on the corner portion, but apparently that couldn't compete with the one that opened over in Ohio City, so they closed that down in 2015, I think, and or maybe it was 2014, but they converted that area to a storeroom. But yeah, if you go over to the West Side Market, if you're ever in Cleveland, Ohio, there's a place over on Lorraine and West 25th called the West Side Market, and just up the street on Lorraine and West 28th, there's a place called Hansa Import House that used to be a combination of deli and travel agency, and I think they still do travel agency somewhere, but some years ago they decided, okay, we're going to put in a microbrewery and restaurant in the path that used to be the deli. I mean the travel agency, and so they kept the deli and wine store, and then they've got the restaurant and the microbrewery in the same building, and they expanded onto that. So actually, I might try and go down there next week if I'm able to, just to grab a bite to eat outdoors, weather permitting. Probably won't be able to do that until the weather warms up, because it's raining right now, but it's nothing but sheer ice out there right now. So anything that didn't melt from the snow is just sheer ice, and I had to take my ice slip-ons and put those onto my shoes just to prevent from going all over the place. So yeah, that's. By the way, feel free to cut out all the parts from like Katsu Marzu onward when you go to put this up, because you probably don't want to broadcast, stuff that people aren't going to be interested in. But so
Okay.
is there anything else you want to talk about?
Oh no, man, that's it. I enjoyed this episode. This is probably the funnest episode so far.
Yeah, awesome.
Man, Mike,
I'm glad I can make it interesting. So I'm actually hoping we can do a show on Monday with Liz and whoever else we can get.
yeah, and we definitely need, definitely need to talk to Afeni about joining the network as well. Like, I think
Yeah,
you
and
and
also
her,
and also Aisha Marza, she's very good. Especially when it comes to COVID policy. She's very good at debunking all this stuff, because I think she's a molecular biologist.
Yeah,
and then there's
did you give me
also
her
yeah, I can
did you
send you
give me
their
her
user handles, and then there's like Lazarus Long and a
yeah
few others I can
yeah
point to. Yeah, because there's one group chat that Liz invited me to. It's supposedly a left wing discussion, but so far it's been dominated by these COVIDiot anti-vaxxer morons who talk more like libertarians, and they do actual commies. It's like, oh, you can't infringe on people's personal liberties, because masks are oppressive, and it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's why I don't be in these
It's like,
group chats.
yeah, it's
I mean, I appreciate her adding me to them, but again,
yeah, I
if they
suspect
gonna talk
Liz
about
added me to them just so we can purge those chats of all the fakers out there, and they'll probably just merge them into another chat or something. But yeah, it's just as But I think once you establish yourself as being a heavy hitter, it's like if you're a veteran of the old internet discussion forums, there are certain phenotypes of internet discussion forum, like internet keyboard warriors. I'm the Godzilla warrior. And it's a quiet day on the political discussion forum, and then out of the waters rose Godzilla to crush everything underfoot and set everything ablaze before going back under the water. Fair number of survivors become xenophobes.
Yeah.
I was in the early days of the internet, late 90s, early 2000s, where it's like you go to like Yahoo chat boards and internet discussion forums, and the political ones were always the most interesting. I mean, I'm on some shaving forums, because I shave with a safety razor, and I'm into all that stuff. I'm surely an old man doing that, but the political ones are the most lively, and those are where I cut my teeth back like 25 years ago. So it's like, you're not going to be able to out debate me. Sorry, very few can do it and come out unscathed.
Yeah, I challenge you and Nick Cruz to a debate. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, well, Nick is. I would say Nick is at least as good as I am. Probably better, because he does this like full time, whereas I'm actually quite rusty and need to brush up, because I'm just trying to work and find work.
Yeah.
But Nick does that for a living.
Yeah. Nick is a champ. He's a professional.
Yeah. The only problem I have with Nick is that he's still too tied to Doorknob and that crowd, and
Yeah.
even to the point where it's like I've seen Doorknob attack Sabby and Rome, and Nick is like just silent on it. Well, and it takes Jay Buffont to kind of call out Doorknob and say, how are you going to talk like this to, people of color, in ways that you would never do to, like, say, Marianne Williamson or even Joe Stein, even though he hates Joe Stein with a passion.
Yeah.
Doorknob's actually been trying to get Steve Bannon on his show. I mean, it's bad enough he sucks up to Robert Kennedy, but now he's trying to suck up to Steve Bannon. My God, what the fuck, dude? I mean, you went from breaking away from the Young Turks to becoming everything the Young Turks used to lie about you being.
Yeah.
And then you made it into the truth. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Man, Doorknob completely fell off the wagon, man. Like, after the COVID shit, yeah, like, everything went south fast.
Yeah. I mean, when he started with the COVID bullshit, that's when I started just saying myself, because it's like, it's a very slippery slope. When you start, trying to reach out to the extreme right to try and find some kind of common ground, inevitably what happens when you do that is you find yourself self-censoring so as to try and not alienate the right-wingers, because they don't want any sort of pushback against their bullshit when they start lying to you. And then because you start self-censoring and not talking back, well, next thing you know, you're parroting their talking points.
Yep.
And then it gets to the point where you've parroted all those talking points to the point where even if you don't actually believe it, but now you've alienated your former audience. And so it's kind of like the old story about the guy who walks into a bar and sits down, and the guy next to him pulls up a chair and orders a drink, and then the bartender pulls out the bat and says, "Get the fuck out of here now." And then the guy says, "What was that all about?" Say, "Do you see the patches that guy had on his jacket?" "No, those were Nazi patches." So if I let him in there, next thing you know, he'll bring his friend in here, and you don't say anything because you don't want to drive out the business. But then the next thing you know, they're bringing 5 more in there, and the next thing you know, you're working in the goddamn Nazi bar. So you got to nip that shit in the bud. And Jimmy Dore is the bartender who let the Nazis into the bar, and now he's between a rock and the hard place, because he can't go back to the people he alienated because they know him now for a fraud, and he can't go against the Nazis because if he does, they'll turn on him. Same thing with Max Blumenthal, same thing with Scott Ritter, same thing with Duran. They're walking very fine lines. And now Ritter, being the typical jarhead he is, half the time he's talking shit to Trump, and the other time he's like sucking him off, over his bigotry against LGBT people.
Yeah.
Now, I'm someone who defended Scott Ritter when certain people were like accusing him of being a pedophile over his convictions, which I think he was railroaded, because the evidence shown in court really didn't match what they were accusing him of. And so I tend to remain skeptical when whistleblowers are prosecuted, because most of the time it's pure bullshit. And personally, I'm 50-50 as to whether or not Ritter is actually guilty, because I don't have all the facts. But but nevertheless, if someone's going to go ahead and make an argument, bring your actual evidence and make your case. Don't start using loaded terms like pedophile. Okay, all right. So I did defend Ritter in that regard, but then Ritter goes ahead and shits the bed and starts talking shit about gay and trans people. And like, dude,
I heard about that.
Don't do that shit. Don't fucking do that shit. Just fucking mouth shut on that, because you have a chance to reach out to the anti-imperialist left, which doesn't necessarily like Russia, but it despises the United States more. because of all the damage it does. And yes, Putin is a bigoted asshole for being against gay and trans people, and that's why I don't talk much about Putin, because I don't like to devote any more brain power than I absolutely have to bigoted assholes.
Exactly. All war leaders are psychopaths.
Yeah, so you're not really helping yourself by, talking shit about targeted minorities if you're trying to get those same minorities to back your country that you're making an apology for in its war against literal neo-Nazis on its border.
Yeah. Exactly.
So just stop saying that shit. All right. I know you want to cry freedom of speech, but freedom of speech doesn't mean, just say whatever the fuck you want and everyone else has to cope. Sometimes you do have to watch what you're saying, simply because if you're trying to reach out to a group that wouldn't ordinarily listen to you, you have to be willing to meet that group halfway and not go out of your way to alienate that group.
Yeah.
All right.
You got to hold your tongue on a lot of instances. So
now I've got no problem alienating the extreme right because it never reciprocates.
Yeah. Exactly.
But if you're a right winger trying to reach out to the left to try and get us to reciprocate, no, you've got to give something back. And one of those things is don't be a dick to people who don't have any power.
Exactly. 100%.
It's like, a lot of these comedians and filmmakers like Mel Brooks and Dave Chappelle and whatever, they always want to bitch and moan. It's like, oh, you can't say anything offensive anymore because, people are snowflakes and, it's like, dude, the number one rule of offensive humor, punch up, not down.
Yeah.
Punch up.
Yeah. Yeah, they make it seem like, oh, you can't say this.
Go after the powerful, okay? I mean, even Richard Pryor would not write Blazing Saddles in 2024. If he were alive in 2024, he would not have written Blazing Saddles, because the shit that was acceptable in 1974 when I was born isn't acceptable in 2024. Because 50 years, audience has changed. What people find funny changes, and the people you were making fun of back in the 80s and 70s, 80s, and 90s, they didn't find those jokes funny the first time around. And you're still telling them, and the audience have moved on. You've got to adapt. So, you've really got to try and learn to tailor your offensive humor to target those who have more power than you do. Because if you're only ever picking on people who have less power because it's easy, I mean, what the fuck are you even bothering for?
Exactly.
Just become a right-wing asshole like Dennis Miller and Victoria Jackson did from Saturday Night Live, or John Lovitz and Rob Schneider, that they all went hard right. Which is really stupid because, back in the 80s and 90s, they were actually liberals.
Yeah.
But I guess, once you left Saturday Night Live and they watched their careers tank, because they didn't have that as their platform anymore, I guess they felt free to reveal their true politics or something. But, where are those guys now? That they're all in hate-ridden retirement because nobody wants to work with them because they're toxic assholes.
Yeah. Yeah. You're 100% right. Okay. That wraps up episode 3 of the A&M podcast. And also, too, guys, the A&M podcast is on the ATP network. So we got our own YouTube channel, and also it will be on the ATP network. So
yeah, and I got to start live streaming on my own political channel because, damn, I to do my own stories and because I do talk a lot, but like I said, if I'm in like a multi-person chat, I do like to be not the only one talking.
Yeah.
The last 2 hours to the contrary. And notwithstanding.
Yeah. Hey, I might well ask you this. Do you want to put your own live stream on the ATP network channel too? For more exposure?
I would like to. I would like to do that. Actually, that would be great if I can figure it out. I think if it goes into settings, I might. I'll have to go into mine and figure out how to do that.
Yeah, and then I can like you can simulcast it to the ATP network in
I'll
your
try and do
YouTube
that. I
channel.
think
So like,
because I'm on the free
okay,
version, I might not be able to do it to more than one channel, but I will try
okay,
because you put yours simultaneously on ATP network and on your own channel.
mm-hmm, yeah,
All right,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I'll
We
have to
on
look into
four.
that.
Yeah, we're on four different platforms. I put it on everywhere I possibly can.
Okay,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I did
so
just
yeah.
recently get a locals profile. I had like Rumbles and Rockfin, and so well, I can't seem to get a channel on Rockfin. They never
Me either.
return my emails, so I'm going to have to try and figure out how you actually create a channel to upload videos on. But I'm on YouTube, Rumble, Rockfin, locals recently, although that's mostly a right wing extremist haven, but there are still a few people on there like Ben Norton and a couple of others. I think before they realized what it was and then stopped using it. But I like to try and keep my options open
Yeah,
uh, and just say, okay, well, try this here, and if it works out, then I'll use that, and if not, then I'll just dump it in favor of something that will be a little bit less hostile to my being there.
yeah, exactly. Okay, Mike. All right, man. See you next week.
Yeah. Oh, no, one more thing, and again, you don't have to record this, but Odyssey and Rumble, you can actually upload your videos.
Man.
All right, see you next week.